All right, what's up, man? Welcome. ADRO. I have author ADRO of the Bumps in the Night books. Should I call you AD?
That's fine. Or I mean, you can call me Alex if you want to, but
Alex.
whatever.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, I imagine if anyone's watching this, they're probably watching for you. And if they need to know who I am, my name is Brian. I have the channel Bad Taste Books. I just like to talk about books, just a guy. But if anyone of my viewers is watching, this is author ADRO of the Bumps in the Night book series, which is basically a Goosebumps throwback series, and there are currently three books out at the moment. Um, I guess I should start off by saying, should I call it a Goosebumps throwback series? Do you like that,
Um,
or is that
yeah. That's generally what I'm going for. I will say, um, in terms of my books, I'm writing the series that I wish Goosebumps was. Though I loved Goosebumps as a kid, but I was never scared by it. I had a lot of fun reading them, and there's some spooky stuff, but I always wanted a little bit more. And so that's really what I strive for with this series is like I want it to be scary or as scary as a kid series can be. So that's really the ultimate goal with this is just it's in that same vein. I love using bright colors, like that whole kind of vibe that Goosebumps had, but I want to take it an extra step and I really want like the scares to be like the main ingredient.
absolutely? I mean, I think you've succeeded. I've read all three of your books now. I loved all of them.
Oh, appreciate
I'm
it.
not, just saying that. I haven't really done any interviews like this, and I really just loved your book so much. I wanted to get you on and chat about them because I want to spread the word. Like you said, to me when I read it, it was like everything I love out of '90s middle grade horror books, but like amped up and just better without all the lame stuff that you get in a lot of those.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I know what you're saying because there is, and I've heard other people comment too. Like there is a lot of parts in Goosebumps books where it's like kids just doing stuff, but it's not really much of anything. It's not interesting to read. It's just like my mom took me to the store, then
yeah,
we went over here, then my friend came over and we played video games, and it's like it is stuff that kids would do, but it's not interesting to read.
sure, absolutely.
And yeah, I just kind of have taken, all my knowledge and experience of growing up with these books, and I loved all the side series because, there's a lot of people that only seem to stick with Goosebumps, but I was actually always like into, the Bone Chillers, Strange Matter, Spooksville. Like I liked all of it, and I liked the knockoff series. I wouldn't say I liked them more, but I was more interested in them only because they were more obscure. Like everybody talked about Goosebumps, everybody knew Goosebumps, but even now, I have people comment on my Instagram all the time because I also on my page, I don't just like to show my books. Like I like to share pieces of my collection, and I love talking about these books. And I have people all the time message me like I never heard of that book or I'd never even heard of that series before. So it's really cool, kind of opening people's eyes to like the underbelly, I guess, of like what else was going on around Goosebumps that people never really, a lot of them never ventured into.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I was the same way. Like, I think Goosebumps is one of the big things that kind of got me into loving reading as a kid when I was really young. I'm sure a lot of people our age can say the same thing.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
like you, as a kid, I would tell all my friends like my favorite one was the Dead Time Stories series. I had a handful of those, and I was just like, look at these. Like, you guys don't have these. I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Oh
So
yeah.
I agree. All the knockoffs are almost better, I think.
And what's kind of cool in a way is I think for like almost all of the Dead Time Stories covers, Tim Jacobus did all that artwork too. And so
Absolutely.
that's what's kind of cool is and there's another series called Spine Tinglers that he did. He
Yep.
didn't do all of them, but he did a bunch of those covers. So I always thought that was kind of interesting is like they call them Goosebumps knockoffs, but like Tim Jacobus was basically illustrating all of them for the most part.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And speaking of cover artists, like you hit the nail on the head with I don't actually know the name of the. Someone did the first two, and then you got a new artist
Yeah.
for the third. Correct?
Yeah, so the first two are done by an artist named Nicholas Rossius. He's based out of Belgium. He just came recommended to me. I literally just posted in a Facebook group. I'm like, hey, I'm an author. I'm doing a Goosebumps type throwback series. I'm looking for art. I want the covers to look in the style of Tim Jacobus. That's what I'm looking for. And a bunch of people right off the bat were like, you want Nicholas Rossius. I checked out his page. His art was awesome. He kind of specializes in like creature horror art. But I just messaged him and I said, hey, here's what I'm going for. Here's my price range of what I can afford. And he was good with that. And well, it was just, it was very cool because like for Mall of Madness, I commissioned the cover well before the book was even close to being done. Like I was still in the midst of a very rough draft, but I just, and it was before I started like an Instagram or anything. It was just me alone with my ideas. But I almost gave up a lot of times. It was like hard for me to really get this going, and I had a lot of self doubt. But I kind of figured I was like, okay, if I commission this cover, I'm kind of like making sure like I paid for this artwork. Like I have to do it, otherwise that's a waste of money. Like I just spent like hundreds of dollars on a piece of art, I mean, not that that's bad to buy art, but I mean, it's like I bought it for the reason, of getting the books. But I literally just sent him a paragraph describing the villain Morrigan, and I just said it would be cool, to have her presenting the mall, and I gave him a couple of details about the mall, but he drew that literally just from a paragraph.
He nailed it.
Yeah, he totally, like that's basically what I envisioned in my head. And when he sent me like the rough drafts, I was just like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then kind of same thing for Nostalgic Nightmare. I gave him like a rough sketch of what my idea was, and again I was just like, yeah, it's like brother and sister, and they're running on this like checkered walkway that's kind of like unraveling, and then I was like, and I want like a portal opening up behind them with like a creepy face in it, and then obviously that book has a lot of like 90s nostalgic references, so he put all this like 90s shapes in this air, and there's like a sticky hand, and there's a CD and a floppy disk and all this stuff floating around. And yeah,
if you have it on hand, you can hold it up if you've got it.
Yeah, I mean, I know the lighting in here is a little rough, but
I only have the first physically.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yep, there we go. I know the
fantastic
lighting's a little rough in here, but
and then I know you just showed me you had a copy of the third one as well.
Yep, I just got it in. So this is Clowning Around,
and I love that cover.
And yeah, so I had to get a new cover artist. Only Nicholas, he has like just so many other projects going on, and he was basically like, I don't really have time. And it was also, so my new artist, her name is Haley Mortimer. She goes by the name Sicky Paint on Instagram. I found her in a Goosebumps group on Facebook. Honestly, she did this really cool wooden cutout and painted the haunted mask, and it's like shaped just like how her putting the mask on, and it looked really awesome. So I started following her, and then I hit her up, and she was into it, and so she's hopefully she's going to be the cover artist going forward as long as it can go, because that was my other main thing is, like Goosebumps, I wanted it to be the same artist. I want that continuity. I want everything to be cohesive. So I was bummed when Nicholas like couldn't keep doing it, but I wanted to still find an artist that like I very much wanted it to be like hand drawn stuff. Because that's what I liked about Nicholas's stuff is he like touches it up digitally a little bit, but it's all hand drawn. Like he draws it out in pencil, and you can see on the covers, you can see that he colors things with markers too, and you can see his like strokes and things like that, and that's what I really liked. So Haley, she has her own style for sure, but I think it still matches the vibe, and she totally killed it too. And I just told her, my idea. I said, hey, there's a creature in the book. It's going to be this clown centipede that's made out of, the body's made out of balloons. And I was like, and I want this thing like bursting out of a circus tent. And then I was like, and just make it carnival like she threw a Ferris wheel in the background. It's kind of a bummer you can't see the full details on the cover. Some things had to get a little cut when I put the borders on. But I actually have the original. I can bring it over. I have the original painting behind me. Hold on. Let me go grab it real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So yeah, that's the other thing. She's based out of Texas, so that's the other cool thing about working with her is like she's gonna literally be sending me all the paint. So this is it right here. So now I own the original.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's a
I own the
masterpiece.
original.
Love
Yep.
it.
So
And that's the thing too is with this series, you seem to have like you have a vision. Like you
yes,
got the border that resembles kind of like those old books, and like you know what you want, and I think that that's why it works so well. The way I thought of it is like you're almost like a Quentin Tarantino, or like maybe I know you're a metal fan, but like Worm, the band Worm. I don't know if you know them, but
yep,
I think of both of them as being these huge fans of their respective fields, like just encyclopedic
yeah.
fans, and they take what works
That's
and make
essentially
something better.
yeah. I mean, that's essentially what it is. Like I said, this isn't like something I thought of last night. Like I wanted to be R.L. Stine when I was a kid. I would spend weekends with my typewriter. Like this is a continually built up thing over the course of my entire life. And for some reason, I was always like held myself back. And I don't know. It wasn't until like the last couple of years where during the day, my job, I work for the gas company, and I've been working there for a couple years now. And before that, I was doing commercial HVAC. I basically was like stuck in retail hell for a long time, and it wasn't until my son was born that I was like, I got to do something else. And I knew nothing about HVAC, but I put myself through HVAC school, and I learned the trade, and it pays the bills. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but it's just funny because I've always been a artistic person. I've always been into writing, being creative, and so it was very strange for me. I don't have a mechanical background at all, but I just knew it was like an in demand thing that not a lot of people were doing anymore. So I figured, hey, if you have skills like that under your belt that are in demand, that's use that to pay the bills, and I'll figure out the writing afterwards. But yeah, so there can be a lot of downtime at the job, and then that's when I really started like trying to fill that time with writing. I was like, man, this is a great time to get some productive stuff done. And yeah, so Mall of Madness, that one took me it took me like a year and a half to write that book, but that's only because, again, like I mentioned before, when I first started, I had like nothing to bounce off of. I had the vision and I knew what I wanted it to be, but I didn't know initially like how to get it to that level that I wanted it to be at. And it was just me alone in my truck, writing. And then I I started that book over from scratch 4 times. I got about halfway through and I was like, nope, this is trash. And I just completely trashed it. Like initially, the villain was just a guy, and I called him like the grinning man. And I remember there was this whole storyline where like the main characters were in the woods, and which that scene is still in the book now. But the grinning man caught them, and then he offered them like coupons for the mall. And then they were so creeped out by him that they like tore up the coupons, but the coupons kept reappearing in their pockets and they couldn't get rid of them. And I don't know, I just totally ditched all that. And then it wasn't until the third draft that I was like, what if the villain was a woman? And I don't know, for some reason I was like, I feel like that's way more interesting to have almost, this like small town. Everyone's kind of like, I don't know, just like normal people. And then you have this like tall, I don't know, like goth baddie that's just like, yo, I'm running things now, and she doesn't fit in, but she's just this like menacing force. And that just sounded way more interesting to me. So that's when Morrigan came into the picture. And then kind of once that detail changed, the story started coming together a lot more quickly. And
Well, did you know what? Sorry, did you know what a Morrigan was? Like, did you find that because as soon as I read this book, I was like, why does that sound so familiar? And it's because there's a show called Lost Girl, and there's a character called the Morrigan because she is a Morrigan, and that's the only reason I knew what that was.
So
otherwise, I think most people probably wouldn't.
Yeah, well, what's interesting to me is the other comparison I've heard. So there's a character in the video game Darkstalkers. I don't know if you're familiar with that game, but it's a game made by Capcom. It's basically Street Fighter but with monsters.
Okay.
It's awesome. I mean, but there's a character in that named Morrigan. She's a succubus,
Yeah.
and she's probably like the mascot of that series. But I've had a couple people be like, "Oh, did you get the name from that?" To be completely honest, I got the name from a list on Google. I literally just typed in like creepy gothic sounding female names, and that was like first on the list. And I was like, "Oh yeah, Morrigan. That sounds pretty cool." And it wasn't until afterwards that I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the name of that character from Darkstalkers." And I was like, "Well, that really fits." And then kind of the same deal with the last name. Like I just Nyx was like a name. And it's funny because I've had people point out like, oh, that's like I think it's like a Roman god or goddess or something like that. I didn't have that connection to it. I pulled that off of a list too of like, and I was like, I wanted a name that sounded kind of dark and villainous that went together. And yeah, Morrigan Nyx. It just kind of, I feel like it kind of flows, and I feel like it represents her. But yeah, I just kind of pulled them off a list. But it's cool that people are getting, different references or being like, oh, is it from this or did you get inspired by that? I'm like, well, I didn't, but that's cool that there's other kind of reference points out there that people can pull from.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Lost Girl is basically it's like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer show, but maybe like if Buffy were older, like like in her 30s.
Okay.
It was like this Canadian show in the early 2000s where she hunts like various demons and supernatural creatures and stuff. But
okay, yeah, I haven't heard of that one. It doesn't sound familiar to me, but
that's very inspiring though that you just started writing because that's what you always wanted to do. I love that. I think I mean I also have a job where I don't I don't know. My background is not in that sort of. I'm more of an artist in my head also, even though what I do is not that at all.
Yeah, but, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to pay the bills. I mean, unfortunately, it's not very easy to just become like Stephen King, or something like that. Sure. Like, it's a lot of grind, and I mean, things are happening with the series now, but it's like I'm nowhere close to where I could like just quit my job. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe someday. You never know.
I mean, I would love that, and hopefully, I can get there. I mean, at least I'm just glad I got my foot in the door now, and I've met so many awesome authors just from doing this. I've met other publishers. I mean, I can't really speak about a ton of details, but I've signed a book deal. So I just finished the third Bumps of the Night, and I'm taking a small break from Bumps of the Night because I have to get this other book finished that I signed a contract for.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, I can't wait to talk about it. I can't really say anything else about it at the moment, but getting that squared away, and then I'll jump back in and get the fourth Bumps book. I'm hoping I can have that ready for Halloween. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm. That was another question I was going to ask, and maybe you can't talk about it in too much detail, but I was going to say, do you have any plans for writing maybe something out of the Bumps in the Night series, be it more middle grade or YA or maybe even adult someday? Or did you just,
Yeah, I have plans for a lot of things. Again, like the book that I'm writing next is going to be, it's more of like going to be more in like the teen kind of area. But I do also have plans for like adult horror novels, and again, it really just comes down to time for me.
Sure.
I have tons of ideas, and even for Bumps of the Night, I have ideas and titles and book cover art ideas for at least probably 20 books.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I got a notebook and I'm always just jotting things down. But yeah, it's really just time. I mean, at this point, as long as life is nice to me, I can get a Bumps of the Night book written in probably about 2 months. I've gotten it down to about 2 months now, as long as like things are smooth. Clowning around took me maybe like 3 months, but that's only because I don't know, stuff got a little crazy in my personal life, and I had like weeks go by where I didn't get a one word written. I just was so busy, so much stuff going on, and then come the end of the day after a long work day, and you're dealing with family stuff, and you're dealing with all this other stuff, like my body's just done, and just sometimes and it's like when your brain's not in it and you're just exhausted, it's like I don't want to put out, I don't want to write half-ass stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to like, if it's really not working, you got to step away sometimes. And because I initially wanted Clowning Around to be out in May. My goal with this series is to have a new book every 3 to 4 months. But unfortunately, yeah, it just, life caught up with me, and I had to delay it. But
Yep.
gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
Absolutely. So you have kids? Do they read the books? Do they think it's cool what you're doing? Are they fans?
Oh yeah, yeah. I have a son named Levi. He's 10. But yeah, he's really into it. I mean, we've read, we most nights we've been reading to him to sleep since he's been 2, and we still like read together. Him and I right now are reading through Bone, that comic from like the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I bought the entire like omnibus of it. It's like 2,000 pages, but it's something I've always wanted to read. So we're in the middle of that right now. But yeah, we've read a whole bunch of Goosebumps, and I haven't read him Clowning Around yet. He heard about half of like the first draft, because I was always like, hey, what do you think of this so far? Because I am always very curious of what kids' opinions are, and because that is like, when writing these books, I have basically 2 audiences. Like, my ultimate goal is that I want to inspire kids to read. I want to basically do what Goosebumps did for me. But there's also a huge part of my readership and audience is people like me, like nostalgic adults that loved Goosebumps, grew up with Goosebumps, and they're going back now and recollecting the books. And I write the books with like both people in mind. I want it to be engaging enough that an adult could read it and be like, oh yeah, okay, this is pretty good. But then I also want it to like, jive with kids. And so that was one of my big things, is like, what would kids think of this stuff? Because some, I haven't been a kid for a while now, and things are always changing. So, I'm sure a lot of kids probably don't think I'm, hip, and but yeah, I actually, about a month ago, my son's school, they reached out and invited me to come do a presentation. So I did 3 separate presentations for the entire 6th grade, then the entire 5th grade, then the entire 4th grade. And I know, it was really awesome. That it's good to know that horror is still kind of alive and well with kids, because the librarian told me the spooky section in her library, she's like, that's the most checked out section. That's awesome. And I donated some copies of my books to the school library, and she told me since they've been donated, they're constantly checked out. Like, they don't even stay on the shelf. And
that's so really cool, man. I mean,
yeah, I thought it was awesome. And just when I started my presentation, my first question was like, is there anybody that thinks they might want to be an author? And there was some hands up, but then when I asked, do you like spooky stories, almost everyone's hand went up, and I was like, okay, well, at least kids are still into spooky stuff, which is good to know. And yeah, it was really awesome.
I love that, man. I love that, like, because that was another question I had, is, do you write more towards the nostalgic adults or towards the kids? Because I think you balance that line really well of like both could definitely read all of these books, and I think writing books that kids can enjoy adds another level of like meaning to what you're doing, because like you said, you might influence a lifelong reader. Like, you might encourage someone's love of reading for a whole lifetime. And I think that's really, really awesome.
Oh yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, it is, I think it's definitely it can be a tough line. And again, I'm trying to emphasize the scares, and with each book, I'm constantly like, I always have like one scene where I'm like, is this too much? Like, because again, ideally, all the main characters in these books, they're all like 12 years old. Like, they're about 6th, 7th grade. So it is like that, like middle grade, kind of level. And I'm not putting anything extreme in there. Like, there's not murders. There's not like, I want it to be that like, there's not people that are dying, but like, I want them to be in real danger. Cause like, and a lot of times with Goosebumps, and I know R.L. Stein's big thing was like, kids don't really get hurt, this and that. But like, I also feel like there's a lot of low stakes in Goosebumps books
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and there's a lot of like it's like they're not really in any danger. I don't know. I wanted to kind of like put that danger in there, and like I think me personally, like I think kids can handle that kind of stuff. I mean, the world is a scary place,
Yeah.
um, and but again, I also wanted it to be able to appeal to the nostalgic adults as well. And I just really want to push that level and that line as best as I can to make them scary, and hopefully resonate with people in that way.
I think you've done a good job because, I could think of a few scenes in particular, and I don't want to spoil too much for people who haven't read them. But there's like things that happen that aren't, bloody and gory. They're not inappropriate, but they're like really intense visual, like horror scenes, like in clowning around when like the makeup is like coming out and coming over him or whatever. Like he's
Yeah,
becoming
yeah.
a clown. I was like, this isn't so intense. Like what a wildly creative like scene. But it's technically there's nothing like inappropriate or violent or anything happening in those scenes, and I feel like you do that really well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm a very like visual person, and when I am writing these books, like I see it in my head as like a movie, and I just try to do my best to describe that, and I'm a very like visceral person too. I love movies that kind of like really almost get under your skin, and you're like, ooh, like, and
Hmm.
and that's kind of the vibe I want with some of these books. Like again, I'm ultimately I'm writing the books that I wish I had as a kid because, like I said, it's like I wanted to be scared. That's what I wanted, and I liked Goosebumps, but it's like I can't think of many where I never really had nightmares or anything like that, and I was like I wish he would just go like a little bit further. So
Sure.
that's ultimately what these are for me is like I just really want to try to emphasize the scares as much as I can without going overboard. And but that's what's cool about the book that I signed a contract for is I can go overboard with that book, and I'm going to.
That's fantastic. I'm very excited to read it. Um, are you like an outliner, or do you kind of just have a general idea and make it up as you go? Pantser, I guess, the
I'm a
discovery.
little of both. I'm definitely mostly a pantser,
Yeah,
but
nice.
I do I do somewhat plot these out. Mall of Madness was very much a pantser type process. I mean, that whole book stemmed from a short story. Um, I was invited to write a kid's horror story for a children's podcast that never really fully came to be. But I wrote this story about these girls that like hide out at the mall once it closes, and they like decide to steal some clothes because they're really cool, but they're too expensive. And then like the mannequins come to life and like basically trap one of the girls, and then she gets turned into a mannequin. Like that was the short story.
Nice.
Um, but I just kind of always had that in my head, and so that's like where that book really grew from. Um, but yeah, it was a lot. I knew certain points I wanted to make, but I was kind of really as I was going, it was really materializing. And then Nostalgic Nightmare, I had the ending came to me first, and then I was working backwards. Um, but that one came together very easily.
Mm,
That was a very easy book to write. It was fun to kind of have those like nostalgic references in there. It was really fun to have like a brother and like a bickering brother and sister, and like I had a lot of fun with those characters. Clowning around was actually the most difficult one for me to write, because there isn't so much, there isn't as many characters in that, and I feel like it kind of comes across, but like it's very much, um, in the book, Billy the character, he's like a very isolated character, but I feel like that also kind of comes through in the text, and it was kind of hard for me to write because there's a lot of like parts in the book where it's just kind of descriptions and like describing what's going on to Billy, but there's not a lot of like character interaction, and I found that to actually be a bit of a challenge when you don't necessarily have all these characters talking with each other. It's like you're kind of just following this kid as he's being tormented by his mom's boyfriend, and then
Yeah.
by the streets, and then by these clowns, and it's just a lot of like stuff, bad things happening. But it was an interesting exercise with having, aside from the clowns, it's very minimal characters in that book.
Yeah, 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 for sure. And that's the thing too is Billy in that book, he's in a pretty hard situation, like hard real life situation.
Yeah,
And I think your books are a little more mature than a lot of the 90s. Not like, just more mature themes, more real themes. You're giving the younger reader a little more respect,
yeah,
treating them that they can, like you said, can handle more than.
yeah. Well, I think also, I mean, with a lot of Goosebumps, it was like, you know, mom, dad, sister, brother. Like it's like a
Yeah,
typical suburban family, but not everyone has that. And I mean,
absolutely.
I know me personally growing up, like my parents got divorced when I was very young, 6 years old. And like eventually, and then like it wasn't until I was in third grade that my mom met my stepdad. But like there was a lot of turmoil, and I saw like a lot of stuff at a very young age that like kids probably shouldn't see. But and I knew a lot of kids growing up that had divorced parents, and so it's like not everybody has that idyllic
Yeah.
situation. And so I wanted to have different types of characters. I didn't want to always just have like the mom, the dad, the dog, the brother, the sister. I wanted to show kind of different things and different lifestyles. And yeah, with this particular book, it's like, yeah, some kids really don't have like a nice home life, or
And
things
those
aren't
kids want to
easy.
read these books too.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And then another thing that I really love is your books seem to have, so far at least, almost like a deeper level. It's not just surface level horror. There seems to be more like deeper themes going on. Is that intentional or
Uh,
just happen?
I think it's a little of both. I mean, like with Mall of Madness, I've had a lot of people be like, "Oh, it kind of touches on that consumerism is bad and this and that," and that wasn't like necessarily my intention with that book, but I think it's just something that's gonna like it just comes through with the story. My intention with that book, honestly, my only intention initially was just that I wanted it to be as scary a young middle grade book as I could make. But
I feel like it's
obviously, I think themes start to come out through that. Um,
sure.
and I think looking through it after the fact, I mean, it's more than just like the consumerism thing. I think that's a story also about like community. I
Hmm.
think it's a story about like you know identity, and because even before the mall comes about, like Sam kind of has her own struggle of like her parents kind of like want her to be this way, but she kind of wants out of this small town. Like she's looking bigger picture. So you kind of have that struggle, and then I think overall too, there's also kind of a theme of, um, you know, I don't know. This might be a little bit spoiler territory, I guess, but like it seems like sometimes we know these corporations are bad, but it doesn't matter what you do. Like the corporations are going to win in the end. Like you you
Yeah,
can't you can't take them down. They're just this giant thing that's in like taking over, and it's like all they got to do is like they could just change their name, or they can move assets over here. Like you know what I mean? And it happens all the time. But it's like you're not going to take down Google.
sure.
You're not going to take down Microsoft or Apple. Like they're just going to keep being these giant, massive companies.
Well, I feel like it's especially the case though for Nostalgic Nightmare and Clowning Around. Like, the Nostalgic Nightmare kind of blew me away in that. Well, let me do Clowning Around first because Clowning
Sure.
Around, the whole thing of becoming a clown, and it's like this. It's almost like a metaphor the whole time,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
was really brilliant, and I love that. But I guess well, I'll let you can talk about that for a minute. But I really want to get into Nostalgic Nightmare a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as far as clowning around, that one actually kind of presented itself to me as I was writing it. But yeah, it wasn't really until the whole Bobo thing kind of comes through later on in the book, and I really was like, it was funny because I wasn't intending it at first, but I was as I was writing it one day, it kind of hit me, and I was like, damn, I was like, this is kind of like a giant metaphor for like trauma and the
Yeah,
way it can present itself, and like almost having how some people like dissociating and having almost like something else that can handle all the trauma for you while you kind of take the back seat, and bad things that happen in childhood that don't get to be fully processed till probably you're well in your adulthood.
It's brilliant. And that's, I think, why I fell in love with some of these books is like that, on the surface, it's just a fun horror story. But like,
Yep.
if you look at it as a whole, it works so perfectly for like this really brilliant, like metaphor for these themes.
Oh, well,
And I
I
think,
appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah. And especially with Nostalgic Nightmare, like, well, I mean, I love that one so much, but the ending, and again, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's like you're really kind of analyzing what I looked at as the reader, our generation's sort of obsession with nostalgia and with our childhood. And if, is it a good thing to be in it
Yeah.
like this, or should we take a step back and live in the present? And I was curious, as someone who has an amazing collection of nostalgic stuff, like, were you really thinking about this a lot when you wrote that?
Yeah, what I was really fueling me with this book, because especially that I have a kid now,
Right.
and it's funny because I think it happens to every generation. Because I know when I was a kid in the '90s, my parents were always like, "Oh, back in my day, like things were so much better. Like you kids have your Nintendo, and you have this, and you have it so easy." And it's funny because it's kind of the same now. Like now I'm an adult, and I found myself sometimes being like, oh, well, it's funny. What I actually say a lot sometimes is kids really do have it pretty easy these days, and they got there's phones and iPads and everything's instant. Netflix, like YouTube, watch whatever you want. And it's funny because I've had days where I'm like, you wouldn't. I've said to my son, I'm like, you would have never made it in the '90s. Like, but it's still, I think it happens to every generation where it's like you get so used to how things are, and then yeah, once you grow up, and the kind of the bullshit of the adult world kind of comes into play, your brain does start to romanticize a lot of things. And yeah, like there was a ton of great things in the '90s, but like it wasn't all great. But it's funny when you think back, sometimes it's like you really do think of it as like this magical place. And so yeah, I was just kind of riffing off that idea of like, the disparity between, children and parents, the different generations, but also like not being able to take off the nostalgia glasses and like kind of seeing things for what they really were sometimes.
Yeah, I think you hit, I don't know. Like I think it was after I read that one that I like immediately messaged you on Instagram and I was like, can we talk? Because I just thought that was so brilliant. Like,
Oh,
you
thank
know,
you.
I I'm sure there have been books that have kind of discussed or looked at like nostalgia and what it's doing, and if is it good, is it bad, is it whatever. But I think that you really like hit like that is the book for me that analyzes that for like our generation, and I thought it was
Oh, wow.
brilliant. Yeah,
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
yeah, of course, yeah, um, yeah. So I guess while we're on the subject of your collection, like for anyone who doesn't know, you do have an incredible collection of like 90s middle grade horror. Is that all you collect, or is it other books and other
Um, yeah, I do collect a lot of also like '80s horror paperbacks. The bulk of it is, I got my huge Goosebumps shelf right over here. I'm looking at, I'm like, Are You Afraid of the Dark books and all the Goosebumps knockoffs. Like that's my bread and butter, really. And there's a bunch of series that I'm like so close to completing, but some of these are incredibly rare and
Mhm.
incredibly expensive.
Absolutely.
But I'm always scouring. Um, and with my job, I'm always usually in the vicinity of a thrift store. So, I'm pretty much in a thrift store just about every day. Because it's funny, all the time I always post in my stories. I'm like, hey, thrift finds of the day, and people always like, where do you find all this stuff? Like, what the hell, man? But I'm like, it's because I go every day.
Mhm.
And that's really, if you are serious about collecting or thrift, that's really what it's all about. I have many, many days. Like it seems like sometimes that I'm like constantly finding gold, but like I have many days where it's like nothing, 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 but
Yeah.
it's really just about that consistency, and like that day will come where you're gonna find gold.
Oh yeah.
Um, I
What
mean,
you know, you can always find stuff like that. It takes time. It takes hunting,
yep,
and you can find a lot of it at used bookstores, but you're going to pay a little extra. But I'm always impressed you find it at like the thrift stores because that's when
yeah,
I'm like, it's like a desert these days.
yeah. I mean, again, it does get tougher. But it's just really about that consistency, and it's like you never know. There's that one day you go, because and it's funny. There's one thrift store in particular where it's like I'm literally going there almost every day, and it's like you'll go 5 days in a row and nothing has changed, and then you go the sixth day, and there's like all the like I'll find a whole stack of Goosebumps or something like that, and I always pick up. I have all the original series. The only things I'm really missing for Goosebumps is some of the Choose Your Own Adventure ones, which some of those are very expensive, and I'm not like crazy about them. So if I find them, I'll grab them, but I'm not going out of my way. But I do always still pick up Goosebumps when I find them because there's a lot of people that still want those, and then I use them for like trading fodder and
Yeah.
or I even trade for services and stuff too. So I have a special swag box for clowning around, the clown box, and I have actually right here. But I had made friends with this girl named Kat, and she has a 3D print shop, and she literally took the cover. She made an entire model of the King Clown for me, and I don't know how well you'll be see him, but we got these little King Clown minifigures.
That's awesome.
Because I'm also a big like minifigure aficionado, and I kind of wanted to integrate like a mini toy line in with the books here. So
Mm.
she did that for me, but I traded her like a ton of Goosebumps because she wants to complete the set too, and this hasn't really been announced anywhere else, but I guess I'll say it here. But there's going to
Exclusive.
be Morgan minifigures coming soon as well.
That's awesome.
So she's working on that she's working on that for me right now, and it's going to be Morgan with her little third eye, and then she's also holding a purse that says "Live to shop, shop to live," and it's going to also come with a little mannequin figure as well.
That's super cool, man. I love that you're incorporating all this like extra stuff to get people hyped about the series.
Yeah, I mean, I it's stuff that I think is cool, and I've never really seen too many authors doing like mini toys and stuff like that. So I thought
Yeah.
it'd be something cool, something different. Um, and yeah, with the clown box, like I got an exclusive shirt in there that you can only get in the clown box. You can only get the clown minifigure from the box because I wanted to make it like limited and exclusive, so it's like kind of makes it special in a way. I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, you also get like a swirly lollipop. You get stickers, bookmarks, sticky hands, which do play a role in the book.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like all kinds of cool swag, and obviously you'll get a signed book and as well. But yeah, just something I thought would be cool to do, and I might continue with other books and do like a cool little limited themed box to go along with it. As
Yeah.
long as it's something that people seem to be into.
Absolutely. Very cool, man. Are there any like holy grails for you with collecting that you're after and haven't found or?
I got a couple. I mean, there's a series called Graveyard School, and
Yeah.
I'm only one away from completing the entire series.
Nice.
It's a book called Here Comes Santa Claus, like
Mhm.
Claws. But that book has eluded me for a long time. And what's funny is that it was maybe a year ago. Like I did see it on eBay, but it was like $70, and so at the time I was like, no, I can't do that. And ever since then, I haven't seen it at all anywhere. And I'm like, oh, if only I just grabbed it. But yeah, there's like that I'm missing, but that would complete my Graveyard School. And then for the Spine Tinglers, I think I'm missing 3 at this point. But like the last book in the series, which is just called Sabertooth Tiger, like I've never seen it for sale anywhere. And kind of the same for Christopher Pike's Spooksville. I'm only missing the last book in the series. It's called The Witch's Gift. I've never seen it for sale anywhere.
Yeah.
It's on my watch list on Thrift Books. There's like 47 people also watching that book. I've never gotten a notification for it. I've never seen it on eBay. I swear the book doesn't even exist. I've I've only seen a very crappy like JPEG image of the cover, but it's not even a true scan of the book. It's like just a digital copy. I've seen like UK versions, but I've never seen the American version anywhere.
See,
So that
I love that, man. I love like learning about these, obscure things. Like I know there's one for what is it? Ghost of Fear Street series. The last one is like Funhouse of Dr. Freak, which people debate whether or not it even exists.
Yeah, no, it did not come out, unfortunately, but that's another
Okay, there you
series.
go.
Yeah, no, that it was planned, but the last two books are like Horror Hotel Part 1 and Part 2, which
Yeah, yeah,
it's funny, those are the only two that I'm missing, and they usually go for fairly high on eBay and stuff like that. And but there's this one dude on Instagram who I've sold him a bunch of Goosebumps because he's trying to complete his set, and I just kept finding stuff. He's like, dude, for real? I'm like, yeah. I mean, we'll figure out a deal. Like, I'll sell you what you need. And I kept finding more stuff. Like, I literally like sold him like a giant stack. But then one day in his stories, he's like, went thrifting today, and he found the last Ghost of Fear Street for like $2. And I was like, dude, I wish we didn't just make that sale because I would have traded you all those Goosebumps just for that one book. Like, because
for sure. Yeah.
on eBay that they it's going for like anywhere from like $60 to $100, and it's like you found that for $2, but like it's like I sold them like $60 worth of Goosebumps, so it's like I gladly would have given you all of those Goosebumps for that one book.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. And I assume I know you just read through the full Bone Chiller series. Are you planning
Yes.
on reading through like as many of you can of these classic
Yeah.
90s books as you can for
Yeah.
inspiration? Or
Yeah, I mean, and I just think it's fun because I never
yeah,
like a lot of them. I never got to read the full series as a kid, and I think it's fun to kind of rank them. I do want to. I've just been a little busy. Obviously, my next focus is writing this next book, but there's another author that I've been beta reading for, and I'm trying to get that finished up so that she can get her book off the ground. Um, I'm on a couple ARC lists. Like I keep getting myself involved in all this stuff, and so then I'm like just so busy. And it's like one of those things where it's like kind of like a good problem to have in a way, you know.
absolutely.
But yeah, there's a couple of ARC books I have that I want to get around to. I recently I've made friends with the author John Ward that writes the Scareville books. And I got all his books. So I'm on the last one of that I'm trying to complete. I was going to do like a fun little ranking video for those. But yeah, eventually I want to go through like all the Shivers books. I loved the Strange Matter series. I've been holding off on Spooksville until I finally complete those because I believe that series has like recurring characters. It's like kind of a continuous story in a way.
I've read the first two or three. Yeah,
Um,
it does continue.
yeah, yeah. So I've been kind of holding off on that till I fully complete it because I don't want to have like this one. But yeah, eventually I will get to them. I mean, I guess that's the beauty of owning these books is like I'll get to it when I can get to it. You know, if that means
Absolutely.
I'm 50 years old, then I guess it means that I'm 50. But
Yep. And you
one way or
mentioned
the
too
other.
that there's the what is it, Scareville? The other there, I noticed there's a handful of other people doing
Yeah,
what you're doing
I can.
and writing like these throwback books. Have you read a lot of them? Are you friends with these guys? Do you know?
Yeah, I personally reached out to pretty much all of them because like Scareville was the one I knew about first, and between Scareville and then there's another series called Fright Vision. Those were the two that I've known about, and they're like a couple years old at this point. And I think I first learned of Fright Vision from one of Cameron Chaney's videos. And Cameron Chaney was a huge influence on me too. Like I've loved his YouTube channel for a long time. And so like seeing his channel and then seeing these two series, I was like, it kind of really fueled me too, because I've had these ideas in my head and I was like, okay, that's cool to see that people kind of had the same upbringing as me, like were highly influenced by Goosebumps, and then they wanted to do their own thing. I mean, yes, like I got to, here's like the first Scareville book here. I can grab a couple more, but there's the I've made friends with almost all of them. So there's another series called Terror Valley from Squall Charleston, and then you also got Fright Factory. But I literally reached out to pretty much all these guys because I feel like it could easily be seen as competition, but I don't think there really needs to be that.
Yeah.
And I'm very much of the mindset of like we can all help each other out. Like we're all under the same kind of umbrella, but all of our books kind of bring different things to the table. And with Terror Valley and Fright Factory, like I kind of made a coalition with those guys, and my idea was like, hey, what if we, how in a lot of the 90s books, in the back of the books, there'd be like ads for other things. I was like, what if we put our
Awesome.
ads in the back of each other's books? So if you look in the back of my books, like there's an ad for Terror. There's always going to be, a blurb for the next Bumps in the Night book. But then as you turn the page, like there's an ad for Terror Valley. There's a Fright Factory ad. And then also in Clowning Around, there's a publishing house called Mad Axe Media. And the guy that runs that, Joey, I've become very good friends with him. He's done a bunch of art for me. But Mad Axe puts out this series called Totally Freaked, which is also like a 90s throwback series. There's been 2 books so far, but I reached out to him. I was like, dude, send me an ad and I'll throw it in the back of my book. So, like
That's
I said,
fantastic. I love that.
yeah, I'm all about like, hey, I can help you out. You help me out. Like kind of trading services and supporting one another. Like, there's no reason why it has to be a competition, and even the author Scareville, I didn't reach out to him for a little bit, but finally I did because it was kind of funny in a way. I would always see on Facebook groups and stuff, people would be like, "Oh, like Scareville, like this is the next Goosebumps," and in my mind for a while, I was like, "No, I'm the next Goosebumps," and so I was like, man, like I think Scareville really is my competition, but I just honestly reached out to him on Facebook and I was like, hey, dude, and what's going on? I know we're kind of doing similar stuff, but I just want to reach out to you. And what was really cool is I've never really had contact with him before, but he was like, oh, I've been seeing you, and he's like, and I see you grinding and putting in the work, and he's like, you've really impressed me with what you're doing. So it's kind of cool to hear that, like, even though we hadn't really spoken yet, like he had still recognized me and seen like what I've been doing. But yeah, we chat pretty regularly, and I know
That's
it's just
fantastic.
yeah, it's just cool to build those relationships with different authors and stuff like that, and just
Maybe,
kind of help each other grow, help support one another.
yeah, it's fantastic. Maybe one of these days you guys will all kind of get in on something together, like do an anthology of horror stories or some sort of like,
Yeah, I don't know if it would ever happen or not, but I did shoot the idea over to John Ward about a possible like Bumps in the Night Scareville like crossover book or something like that. I mean,
now you're
he's now signed with a publisher that is reissuing all the Scareville books. So he's like, oh, it would have to kind of be approved by them. But I was like, yeah, just like a funny thought. But
yeah. That'd be cool.
I'm down for all that stuff. That would be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. I don't know. I didn't even look at my question list, but I think we hit pretty much everything I wanted
Yeah.
to chat about. If there's anything else you want to talk about or shout out or comment on,
Yeah, I mean, really, just if you're listening, you can find me on Instagram is where I'm most active. Just Bumps in the Night books. There's like an underscore between each word, but if you just start searching Bumps in the Night, it should pop right up. And bumpsinthenight.com is the website. If you want to support me directly, that's where you go. You can get signed books there. I do still have some of the clown boxes, so you can get lots of exclusive swag. You can check all the dates of where I'm going to be. I got a bunch of conventions booked at the end of July up here in Nashua, New Hampshire. I'm going to be at Monster Expo. It's a 2-day horror festival. In September, I'm going to be at the Fright Reads Book Festival in Maryland. Um, and then also next February, I'm going to be at AuthorCon 6, which is like one of the biggest
That's the big one.
horror events that there are. And I'm going to be
That's
sharing
down
it.
in Virginia, right?
Yep. I'm going to be sharing a table with Judith Sonnet, who is very big in the indie world. She's been an awesome supporter of Bumps on the Night, and um, we should have something cool cooked up at our table that's going to be exclusive for the con. So,
Ooh,
very much looking
that's
forward to
awesome,
that.
man.
Yeah,
It must feel good to be like hanging out with Judith Sonnet and make it really feeling like you're making it happen. You're a part of it, man.
yeah. It's funny too because before I knew she was an author, she was one of like my earliest followers on Instagram, and I would post some of my books, and then I kept getting messages from I didn't know who she was at first, but I kept getting messages from this person, and then like they'd be like, "Ooh, give me that book! Ooh, I need that book!" And I remember there's a series called Shadow Zone, and I posted one of those, and they're like, "Ooh, I need that," and I was like, "I could sell it to you for $5. Like I have an extra." And so like we started like trading and selling books, and this was well before I even knew they were an author. But then there kind of came a point where I did realize that, and then we did like a trade with some books, and just it was like, oh, I can send you some of my signed books. And then it was funny when I started seeing her book, The Home, was coming out. I was very intrigued by the premise, and then she reached out and she was like, "Hey, what if I traded you a copy of The Home for the Mall of Madness?" And I was like, "Yes, done." And honestly, The Home is like one of the best horror books I've read in the last like 15 years. Like that book is freaking incredible. So if you haven't checked it out yet, The Home by Judith Sonnet, go read that book.
I'm sold. I'll look into it. Yeah, well, awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me. And for
Of
anyone
course.
watching, I wholly, fully, completely support buying these books. They're amazing. Alex is a cool guy, nice guy. Check him out on Instagram, buy his books, spend your money, encourage awesome, fantastic indie authors and the wonderful art they make. That's all I got.
Awesome. Well,
Sweet.
thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Of course.